Imagine this. You're standing before a painting, and as you take in the scene, something stirs within you. You can't quite place it at first, but the more you look, the heavier the weight feels. The composition, the colors, and even the subject seem to pull at your emotions. You realize this isn't just a painting. It's a message, an atmosphere, a sadness that you can almost feel. But here's the twist. This painting, Stanchik by Jan Matejko, isn't like others you may have encountered. It's not the vibrant historical scene filled with action or chaos that you might expect from a work of art meant to capture a pivotal moment in history. No, this one feels different. It's intimate, it's quiet, it's melancholic. The first time I encountered Stanchik, I thought I would gain more insight into it by researching its history, like I usually do with other paintings. And typically, when I learn about the background and context, I find myself appreciating the artwork even more. I feel like I've uncovered a new layer, a deeper meaning that enhances my connection to the piece. But with Stanchik, something unexpected happened. Learning about its history didn't make it more appealing to me. In fact, it almost took something away from it. The more I read about its creation, the more I realized that it was not just about the history it was about. The emotion in the painting, the sadness that poured from the canvas, was not something that could be fully explained by the context. It was something much deeper. So let's dive into the history of Stanchik and the man behind the brush, Jan Matejko. Born in Poland, Matejko became famous for his historical paintings, often depicting significant moments in Polish history. His works, such as the Sermon of Piotr Skarga and Rayton, or The Fall of Poland, earned him critical acclaim. With the Sermon of Piotr Skarga winning the gold medal at the 1865 Paris Salon, Matejko was known for his grand historical compositions, often filled with figures and action. But Stanchik was something different. Painted early in his career, when Matejko was just 24 years old. It stands out not just for its theme, but for its solitude. Unlike his other works, which were often crowded with bustling figures and dramatic scenes, Stanchik is quiet, almost silent. There's no crowd, no bustling city scene, no grand historical moment. There is only the jester, lost in thought, alone. In a room, the jester in the painting Stanchik wasn't just an entertainer. He wasn't just there to make people laugh. Stanchik was a social commentator during the Polish Renaissance under King Sigismund I the Old. He was known for his sharp intellect and his ability to use humor to express truths about society and politics. His jests were more than just jokes. They were reflections of the political climate and the struggles of the Polish people at the time. Stanchik became a cultural icon in Polish culture, appearing not only in paintings, but in literature, plays, and books. In fact, Matejko depicted him in multiple scenes, such as the hanging of the Sigismund Bell and Gamrot and Stanchik. But what makes Stanchik different is that it doesn't show him performing for an audience or making a statement. It shows him, in a rare moment of introspection, a man alone with his thoughts. In the background of the painting, you can see a lively party unfolding, with guests mingling, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Yet Stanchik, the man whose job is to entertain, is isolated from it all. His back is turned to the celebration. His face is etched with sorrow, lost in thought, disconnected from the joy happening around him. This is the heart of the painting. This jester, who is meant to bring joy to others, cannot bring joy to himself. It's a silent tragedy, captured in a single moment. Now, let's look at the historical context behind this piece. The full title of the painting is not just Stanchik. It's actually Stachik during a ball at the court of Queen Bona in the face of the loss of Smolensk. This brings us to the historical backdrop of the painting. In 1514, Poland was at war with Russia. It just lost the city of Smolensk, and the painting reflects Stanchik's worry for the future of his country. He was aware of the political situation, and Matejko used this moment to convey the sadness and despair that Stanchik must have felt. Seeing the disarray around him, the historical details of the painting further emphasize this feeling of doom. The letter in front of Stanchik is likely announcing the loss of Smolensk, and the dwarf holding a lute in the background is a symbol of decadence, further underscoring the sense of decline in the kingdom. Through the window, we can see the wall cathedral, a symbol of Polish kingship and power. But next to it, There's a comet in the sky, an ominous sign that was actually seen in 1514, symbolizing the downfall of the empire. These details are crucial, but they do not define the emotional depth of the painting. They provide context, but the real impact of Stanchik comes from the sadness that emanates from the jester himself. However, as much as the historical context deepens our understanding of the painting, it doesn't change the emotional weight that comes from Stanchik's solitude. The emotional connection with the viewer is not about the loss of Smolensk or the political context. It's about the jester's internal conflict. It's about a man who is meant to make others laugh but cannot find joy for himself, even with all the historical details. The painting remains powerful because of the isolation it conveys. The sadness of Stanchik is not explained away by history. It's left for us to feel, and the more we learn about the backstory, the more we realize that the painting isn't just about the events of 1514, but about something universal: the loneliness of those who carry the burden of making others happy, while being unable to find happiness themselves. This is where Stanchik stands apart from other historical paintings. While we often find meaning and deeper connection in understanding the history behind a painting, in this case, the more we know, the more we realize that it's not the history that makes the painting powerful, it's the emotions it stirs within us. And in that, Stanchik leaves us with a sense of melancholy, not because we know the full story, but because we understand the weight of the jester's sadness. When you look at Stanchik, what is it that pulls you in? Is it the historical context that speaks of loss and despair? Or is it something deeper, something that resonates with a feeling of isolation and sorrow? When I first encountered this painting, I was struck by its emotional weight, but I couldn't quite explain why. It wasn't just the political backdrop or the historical significance. It was something in the posture of Stanchik, the way his back was turned to the party, the emptiness in his eyes. It spoke to me in a way that no other painting has before. There's a powerful sadness in this image, a feeling of profound solitude that seems to consume Stanchik. His back is to the world, his face lost in thought, his expression not one of mirth, but of sorrow and despair. He is a jester, a man whose job it is to entertain, to bring joy to others. Yet here he is, isolated from the celebration, disconnected from the happiness of the guests around him. It's the very thing he was born to do: make people laugh, make them smile has failed him. The contrast is striking. The scene around him is full of light, of life, of joy, yet Stanchik is trapped in a world of his own sadness. This is the heart of the painting. This is where its power lies. But what makes this sadness even more tragic is the paradox of the jester. The sad clown paradox is something that many people have heard of before. It's the idea that those who are expected to bring joy to others, those who wear a mask of happiness, often hide a deep inner pain. We've all seen it: the comedian who makes people laugh but is often alone and struggling in their personal life. The performer who brings light to others but can't find the same light for themselves. It's a phenomenon that tugs at our hearts because it makes us realize the cost of bringing joy to others sometimes. Cost is your own happiness. The sad clown paradox isn't new. In fact, it has been studied and discussed in psychological literature for years. A 1981 study titled "Pretend the World is Funny and Forever," a psychological analysis of comedians, clowns, and actors, examined this very phenomenon. It explored the emotional toll that performers, particularly clowns and comedians, experience. They often feel a deep sense of loneliness and sadness, despite their role in bringing laughter and joy to the world. It's a harsh irony. The ones who make us laugh often hide their tears behind a mask of humor. And in that paradox, there is an even deeper sorrow, because it speaks to the idea that happiness is fleeting, and it is often hard to find, even for those whose job it is to create it for others. In Stanchik, we see that paradox in its purest form. Mitako has captured a moment that goes beyond historical context. It is a depiction of internal conflict, of a man caught between the world of joy and the world of sorrow. The jester's role is to entertain, to make people laugh, but the painting reveals a man who cannot cheer himself up. He is alone, even in a crowded room. He is the life of the party, yet he turns his back on it. He is disconnected from the world around him, and in that moment, we feel the weight of his isolation. What makes Stanchik so poignant is the irony of the situation. Stanchik, a man whose job it is to make others laugh, is not able to find happiness in the midst of a party. And what makes this even more tragic is that he is, in a sense, a reflection of the artist himself. Jan Matejko modeled Stanchik after himself, and in doing so, he has created a self-portrait of loneliness and despair. This connection between the artist and the subject adds another layer of depth to the painting. It's as if Matejko is expressing his own inner turmoil through Stanchik, making the sadness even more personal, more raw, and more real. This self-reflection is not just a coincidence. It is likely that Matejko, who painted this when he was just 24, was grappling with his own sense of isolation, his own struggles with finding happiness and meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and unforgiving. By creating Stanchik, he may have been confronting his own inner demons, expressing a part of himself that he could not voice through words. The painting becomes not just an image of a historical figure, but a mirror to Matejko's own soul. What is also striking about Stanchik is the emotional resonance it carries even today. The sadness we see in the painting is not limited to the historical context of 1514. It is timeless. The sad clown paradox is something that transcends time and place. We still see it today, in the lives of comedians, performers, and even in everyday people who feel the pressure to put on a happy face, even when they are struggling on the inside. It's a universal feeling, a recognition that the world often demands us to be happy, to be joyful, to entertain others, while we ourselves may be battling our own sorrow and despair. As we look at the painting, we are reminded of the fragility of the human spirit. We see how easily it can be masked, how easily we can wear a mask of happiness, while our true feelings are hidden beneath the surface. And in that realization, there is a sense of empathy, of understanding. We see Stanchik's loneliness, and in a way, we see our own. We are reminded that it's okay to not always be happy, to not always be the one who makes others laugh. Sometimes we too need to step away from the party, to reflect on our own thoughts and feelings, and to find solace in our own company. So what does Stanchik ultimately teach us? It teaches us about the complexity of human emotion, about the masks we wear, and about the hidden struggles that often go unnoticed. It reminds us that even those who appear to be the happiest, the most joyful, are often the ones who are carrying the greatest burdens. And in that sense, Stanchik is not just a painting, it's a window into the human condition. A reminder that we are all in some way, like Stanchik, alone with our thoughts, lost in our own struggles, and seeking something more than what the world offers.